Dear content creator, imagine seeing your name in an email that starts off with, "We'd love to collaborate with you." You get excited, you want to screenshot it and probably even send it in the group chat. But no one really talks about what happens after you get an email like this. Because landing your first brand deal is one thing, but the way you handle it is what determines getting your next one. So today we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of brand deals, how to show up professionally, protect yourself, and build lasting relationships. So let's dive in. What up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Dear Content Creator. I am your host, Karis Maggie. Thank you all so much for tuning into another episode. I am super grateful to any of you who are still tuned in, listening. And yeah, we were on a little bit of a hiatus, and I know I've been talking for the longest about doing an episode on brand deals. Life got crazier than I expected it to, especially with my 9 to 5. But I said, you know what? Before the year ends, I need to put out an episode delivering on that promise. So that is what this episode is all about, y'all. We're finally talking about brand deals. We've talked about laying the foundation. If you listen to previous episodes I've talked about how to become a content creator, laying the foundation, how you're picking, your niche, as they would call it, starting with what you have, having a media kit in place, all of these important things that basically helps you to set the foundation. And in our last episode, we actually talked about PR events, how content creators get invited to PR events, and how some of the opportunities that many creators get in the form of brand deals actually come from them being invited to PR events. So as someone who has had that happen to me, I thought, you know what, this was a great segue. So go and listen to that episode if you haven't as yet, and then come listen to this one. But we're finally here, y'all. I know we are anxious to get to the money, but I want to preface this by saying that when it comes on to brand deals, you have to keep in mind that it is important for you to have a foundation. I feel like in this space, because there are so many people doing content right now, almost everyone and their grandmother has a dream of being an influencer and just making elaborate amounts of money. Whatever you're seeing portrayed to you online is probably a factor to that. Sometimes we want to get to the finish line so quickly without actually putting in the foundational work and just the basics that will help us even get these opportunities in the first place. So if you're someone who is still at that place of figuring out content, please, before you start thinking about brand deals, learn the foundations and how to set up yourself first for success so you're ready for these opportunities when they come. So listen to the other episodes I have, and then you can listen to this one. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let us firstly talk about what brand deals actually are. So brand deals are paid or compensated partnerships between a brand and a creator. This can look in different kind of ways, and I think based on the different types of ways that people are able to work with brands, that is why it's not usually just the simple way that most of us know it to be, which is just when a brand pays a creator to promote their product and they have to post it on their page and they get paid based on a certain deliverables, etc. But usually this will look like sponsored posts, which is the most common one that a lot of us know. There's also UGC, where the creator doesn't have to post it on their page. They just get paid by the brand to create the content for them, and the brand is using it however they want. We also have other opportunities like gifted collabs. There's also affiliate partnerships. So yeah, those are usually the main ones, but there are other ones as well that are not talked about enough, even like event-based deals. So a brand might sponsor an event for a creator. So yeah, something I'm trying to tap into a little bit more. So 2026, that is definitely something I'm going to be like looking into. But even sometimes a brand will fly a creator out to an event and all they have to do is like share their experience about it or something like that. So brand trips, things like that would also be considered brand deal or brand partnerships. And what usually is a part of these is that there's always going to be an agreement there will be contracts, there will be deliverables, and there will be compensation and also a certain deadline for when the content needs to go out. So let us go over now to talking about the do's. Some of the do's. Once you get that email from a brand that they want to work with you, I want you to know this. It is not confirmed. It is not, solidified. There's nothing set in stone. So I would highly recommend that you don't share this with anyone unless if it's someone who is within the same field as you as a content creator, and maybe you're asking for advice on what are some questions you need to ask, or maybe they have worked with the brand before and you kind of want to pick someone's brain on what you should charge or whatever the case might be. Please note that depends on your relationship with the person, because you can't just go to any and anybody and be like, oh, how much did you charge this brand? There are going to be different factors for what people charge. So I would say from the get-go, if you're someone who's creating content and you already know you want to work with brands, already have an idea of what your minimum fee is so that you're able to quote a brand based on the deliverables that they're giving you and usage rights, all of that. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But the first thing that you want to do, you're not just going to accept like, yeah, I would love to, definitely give thanks to the brand for reaching out, share how you're excited, and ask questions that you probably do not see mentioned in the email. So what are the deliverables? Like what is the deadline? Little stuff like that. And also feel bold too to ask if the brand has a budget, because the last thing you want to do is to provide your rates, because brands like to ask for your rate. But you can also feel free to ask them what their budget is. They won't always tell you. So that's why I say always have a figure in mind of how much you would charge. But in order for you to properly quote the brand on what your amount is, you need to have certain information such as, okay, what is the usage for this brand partnership? What is the timeline? Because if it's something that they want very quickly, you want to make sure that you're charging them a rush fee. Little stuff like that is how people are really stacking the cash, okay? So ask follow-up questions is the first thing I would say. Give thanks to the brand or show your appreciation to the brand for reaching out to you for this opportunity, and then ask any clarifying questions that they might not have included in the email. So that's the first thing. Make sure you're also clear on how many pieces of content. So are they looking for 2 reels or is it 1 reel? That is what also allows you to properly quote. So ask questions, y'all. This is not a done deal. This is the part where you're still pretty much in the negotiation part. They have reached out to you. So there's a reason that they reached out and they want to work with you. So ask your questions so you ensure that you are quoting properly. And this also includes like revisions. Like how many revisions would you be, expected to do? There's usually an approval process, but I would say definitely ask these questions, because the last thing you want is that you do a video and then the brand comes back and they're like, oh, this is not what we were looking for. And then you have to do it over. It's like, what if you had used additional help for that? You have to pay those people, right? Keep these things in mind, y'all. But anyways, after you've asked those questions, they probably come back, they give you the information. A lot of times when you ask brands what their budget is, they're not going to outright tell you. Just be prepared for that. So that's why I say it's important to ask all these follow-up questions so you know what to tell them is your amount. If they agree to take your rate, then the next step would be that they are now going to go forward with a contract. Now, y'all, please, for the love of Jesus, do not just take the contract and sign it and that's it. Read the contract. All right? Read the contract. There will be things in there that you want to make sure that you are clarifying, or if you need to ask a lawyer, if you have no links like that, you can ask a lawyer to break it down for you, or just use good old ChatGPT to like dumb down some of the stuff that you don't know. When I just started and I got my very first big girl deal, I didn't have any lawyer I could consult to advise me on what to negotiate or whatever. I had to use ChatGPT at the time to help me figure out what were some of these things that were in the contract that I've never seen before. Because again, now is my first time actually working with a big corporate brand. there's going to be things that they're going to put in their contract, and you need to be aware of what those things mean so that you can go back and like negotiate. Either they remove some things, make it adjustable so that it is mutually beneficial to you and the brand. Certain things that you definitely want to look out for is perpetuity stuff. So when it comes down to usage, they need to take that out. You can request that that be taken out because we're not going to be giving our stuff in perpetuity. You need to ensure that you have a usage rights fee. So look for what the usage is of the content. Also, you should ask questions about them running ads on it because you usually are the one who have to post the content. If they want to run ads on it, that is an additional fee. I believe that is what would be called the licensing fee. You posting it organically and producing it is not the same as them being able to run ads on your videos. Just keep that in mind as well. So that, again, helps you know how to quote the brand. Because you're usually going to be getting the contract after you have already told them your amount. So keep that in mind, y'all. What else? And I have to look out for. But yes, make sure that you're looking at what the deliverables are, usage rights, what are the timeline. Also, the payment terms. One of the most ghetto things about this industry is the net 30, net 60. I've even heard about net 90. Like, these are the payment cycles. So you're not getting paid until 30 days after you already delivered the content. Some people, it can be up to 90 days. Imagine not getting paid for a whole 3 months after you done posted the content. But that is the reality for a lot of people. So when you have that in mind, that allows you to also know, like, also how to charge. It also helps you to know, look for anything that has to do with like exclusivity. Like, what is the range of time that they're expecting you to not work with a competitor of theirs? Because that is also another way that you are charging for these exclusivity, right? Because you can't expect me to not work with another brand for like up to a year. Some people might be up to like 6 months. Like, I've seen some contracts where it's like in perpetuity where they can't work with another brand. Like, read the contracts, all right? If it's anything you get out of this episode, guys, read the damn contract. Okay? Madon talk. Cool. The next thing is that you want to make sure that you are clear on getting all of these things negotiated. So your rates, whether they agree to it, if there's a way that you guys can meet in the middle. Now that you've gotten the contract, you've read it, before you sign it, do not feel pressure to sign it right away. You can go back and ask questions and require that they change certain stuff. So be very specific about the areas that you would like them to make adjustments to so that you're not signing something that's putting yourself in trouble. There's a specific section that a lot of creators don't look at. I looked at this because the very first time when I used ChatGPT to help me figure out what that was saying, it's the thing called, I think it's called indemnity. I think that's the word. But it's basically like, if, for example, you were to promote a product for the brand via the brand deal and someone was to use it and they were harmed in some kind of way, you would be on the hook for that. Like, you can get sued for that versus crazy stuff, y'all. So what I usually do is that I will make sure that it is only the amount that I got paid. The maximum is the amount that I got paid by the brand, is like how much I would be liable for. I'm not about to be liable for your subsidiaries or your sub whatever. And all of that's like maybe putting me in millions of dollars of debt or anything like that. So stuff like that, understand what they mean, ask questions, negotiate that it's been changed so it is mutually beneficial for you. You don't realize how long may I spend on this specific topic here? All right, there's a reason. All right, the second thing is that you want to treat your deadlines very seriously. So if the brand wants you to post it on the 16th of November, make sure that that is the date that you're going to be posting it. If that is not possible, you need to be communicating in advance with the brand. You can't wait the day before or the day after to tell the brand, oh, I can't, do this because such and such happen. Like, they don't care. They have an agreement with you. You sign a contract. This is a business. This is a business agreement that you have at this point with the brand. So that's why I say be aware of the deadline for when you have to post the content, because depending on that, you will probably have to charge a rush fee, or you might have to opt out of that opportunity if there is no wiggle room for you to provide it later on, because life is life in. You might have other things on the go that will just not allow you to be able to squeeze in that brand opportunity. But for someone who maybe this was your first time, you really want to make a good impression, you want to like really grab this opportunity, you might want to really make it work and be flexible as much as you can with your schedule. So just be aware of what's going on in your life to make sure that you can commit to this thing that you said yes to. The deadlines half the time are non-negotiable, y'all. Be very aware of that. You might mess up your bag. It helps you to build trust. And also, it allows you to get paid when you're supposed to get paid. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people talk about how they were late with posting by a day or whatever, and the brand is just not going to pay them. And it's like, well, you breached your contract. So be aware, contract people. Go back to the contract at the end of the day. The next thing is make sure that you are communicating respectfully and, of course, promptly. So for all of you who have emails that you don't check as often, you might be missing out on opportunities because you take long to reply. In my email signature, I have a note that says, I will reply between 24 to 48 hours. And that is something I honestly try to do, especially because in my 9 to 5, I'm someone like my role requires me to pretty much be replying to emails every single day. And I'm talking to people every single day. So I make it a priority too in my regular life and in my content creator business too, that I check my emails every day. So I'm not missing out on like any brand opportunities that might come through. So make sure that, you're promptly replying, follow up if you need to, especially if it's urgent questions that you have and you don't seem to be getting an answer and that's preventing you from getting started with the content. Don't be afraid to like send follow-ups if you need to, but just be respectful at the end of the day. No ghosting, okay? We're not gonna ghost. The next thing is, because this is your first time, you want to make sure that you are you're giving your very best. For me, I always, especially when I'm working with a brand for the first time, I will strategically over deliver because I want to really make a good impression. And I want there to be other opportunities because I know that there are other creators that they could probably work with, but there's a reason they wanted to work with me. So I'm going to treat this very seriously. I put a lot of work into the behind the scenes of the ideas that I come up with my concepts. I work with people who help me to bring my vision to life also, whenever possible, depending on the budget. And if they can fulfill the budget, I will use people around me who are in the creative field. So like photographers, videographers, and editors to help me with that. And so I can focus on just being the talent and delivering with the execution of the content. So yeah, I always like to strategically over deliver because you don't want to mess up your first time. You want to make a good impression, and this will help for future opportunities. So focus on strong storytelling, strong hooks. You want to make it, think of the reason why the brand came to you in the first place and make sure that you're delivering on that. So for me, I know that some brands reached out to me because of high video quality that they've seen from other work that I do. Those are not things that I had filmed on my own. So I got the people who I worked with on those things to help me when it came on to any of those campaigns that I had to do in the past. So this is just like something that I personally do, but you do what works for you. We all have different like strengths and gifts. So use the gift that you have and kind of have an idea of why the brand reached out to you. So you are doubling down on that to deliver at the end of the day. Now, let's talk about the don'ts, okay? Definitely don't undersell yourself because of fear. It is very easy that, especially for your very first opportunity, that you will lowball yourself and take any and anything just because you want the opportunity to work with a brand and say that you worked with this brand. I promise you, you don't want to do that. If the brand has a budget and you accept something lower than that, it kind of makes it hard that later on, if they were to come back to you, that you can negotiate for more, because now they're going to try and basically go for the rate that you gave them before that might have been way less than what you usually charge. So be mindful of that. That's why I said make sure you're asking the right questions in the beginning. Don't just, take or give out a figure without knowing what the deliverables are, the timeline, all of that stuff, the number of pieces of content. Know all of that. And also, as I said, don't be afraid to ask the brand what their budget is. They won't always share it, but when they do share, that also allows you to know, okay, based on what their budget is, this is what I know I can deliver for the brand. And also it provides you with clarity so you're not wasting your time. Maybe this is not the brand deal for you, or the brand that you should be working with, because their budget is just not within what can allow you to do the quality of work that you want to do. But again, everyone's going to do what works for them. For some people, depending on who the brand is, maybe you're looking for future opportunities that can help set you up later on. You would be able to negotiate to take something less than you usually take, but just make sure it's something that you will be able to sleep good at night with that decision. That's all I would say right there. Second don't is do not ignore usage rights. Okay? These are very important. You need to know if the brand is reusing your content on, for example, their website. Is it going to be put up on a billboard or put into the mall? Are they going to run ads on it? These are things you need to know, because this is where the additional money that you can be getting for yourself actually comes from. It's not just from making the content and posting it to your page. No, usage rights, I have learned over time, is really where the money is. I can't tell you how many people who have shared where they have been able to make money off of campaigns they did in the past for brands, because brands reached out to them to like utilize their campaign again for X amount of time. Maybe they want to use it for 30 days or 60 days, whatever the time frame is. But don't just be aware of them using it on social. Know if they're going to be using it other places, so you can charge the usage rights for those as well. Okay? And the last thing, well, not last thing, but the third thing is usually there is an approval process where the brand is going to want to see the content before you actually post it. I highly recommend doing this even if they don't ask, because it just allows that when you do post the content, you don't have any issues with maybe there was something that you said incorrectly or inaccurately, whatever, like it's getting approved by the brand before you actually post it. As much as possible as creators, we want to also have creative freedom to do content in a way that is very natural for our community. It's very easy that whenever you get a brand deal, your videos just all of a sudden come off salesy type like, and it's not as authentic as the rest of your content. And that can affect the reach or organic engagement that you get from your regular community. So there has to be like also some compromise there from the brand, allowing you to be creative in that, what is it exactly about my content that you liked, so that I can continue to do that. And I have the creative freedom to organically infuse your content on my page via a brand deal where it doesn't come off too like I'm trying hard or it just seems forced. You know what I mean? You know those campaigns that I'm talking about. You've seen them before. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, the approval process is something that I would highly recommend that anyone does. It just prevents, any problems later on. But also, usually when you're working with specific brands, they will have that in the contract that there's an approval process too. So they need to see the content within this timeline. So make sure that you're also aware of that. The time that you get to film the content, get it edited, provide it to the brand for approval before you can even post it. So check all of that information, y'all. Trust me. The next don't. This is a hard one because I am an advocate for people calling out brands But sometimes it's like, who is going to really be in your corner? Like, one thing about social media is that people will hype you up, you know, when you're doing something very bold. But in reality, a lot of the times they're not going to do that themselves. So lately, I've been seeing a lot of people taking a stand to like call out brands, especially when they have a horrible working partnership with them. Maybe they did not get paid by the brand within the time they were supposed to get paid, and they've tried all kinds of efforts for them to get paid, and no one is listening to them. I would say that you should exhaust every single avenue, whether you have to reach out to, I don't know, the CEO even, before you reach to the point where you are publicly like calling out the brand. Because other brands might be looking at that, even if they don't understand the gravity of the situations and maybe everything that you did within your power to not reach to that point. Some brands won't care. That might give them a maybe we should stay clear of this person type of feeling. But if you don't really care too much, then by all means do you. But I would personally not recommend like making a habit of burning bridges publicly. Find a way to fix anything and any issues internally as much as you can so it doesn't get to that point. So it can be frustrating, but like, trust me, professionalism in this industry, and like the truth of the matter is, in the creator economy, the creator space, the brands that you're working with or the PR companies that represent them, who are usually the ones picking the creators to work with, overall, they have to like you to want to work with you. That's the truth. This is a really relationship building, relationship making type of industry. And if they don't like you, they they share with other people. They talk. People in this industry, they talk amongst themselves. So be very mindful of how you're speaking to the persons who are reaching out to you. Be as respectful as you can. Yeah, just overall keep that professionalism as much as you can. And the last thing is, you definitely don't want to count yourself out and think of this as just like a one-off opportunity. Like, as I said before, I strategically try to over deliver so that I can wow the brands, and like I am top of mind whenever they have another campaign. They know they can rely on me because I have delivered not only on the content and giving them high quality, content, but also my deadlines. I'm very, within the time frame that they request. I'm friendly, I'm respectful, whatever the case might be. Like, don't assume that this is a one-time thing, because it could actually open doors for you to work with that brand multiple times. I am speaking from experience as someone who has been able to work with a brand about 4 times in the span of 2 years. So yeah, I would highly recommend that as much as you can think of. And also, you don't want to just work with a brand one time. I personally don't do brand deals with brands that I personally don't like enjoy or are a user of, if I'm being honest with you. So that's why I don't even have a lot of brand deals that I do. I get a lot of inboxes and messages. A lot of it lately though is like AI slop, which I'm like not interested in. But for the most part, when I am doing any type of brand deals, I'm looking at, okay, here's one thing that I can do right now. I'm already thinking about like another type of campaign, or what are some of the other things that they might have that I can pitch later on. Because you can also feel free to pitch yourself for future opportunities. And that is something that I'm going to end off with afterwards. But yeah, I would say just have the mindset. The mindset that you want to have is every brand deal that you do is an audition for the next one. So the way you show up, the way you deliver, the way you execute is going to determine if those opportunities come up. I'm not going to say that it is a guarantee, but whenever the opportunity comes up that they can have you again, you would be someone that they would want to work with again, especially if they did enjoy working with you. So highly recommend like thinking about that. And the very last thing that I would say of how you can turn one brand deal opportunity into others is, now that you've finished posting the content, you're getting the engagement, whatever the case might be. Sometimes the engagement doesn't always work out in your favor as well. Find different ways that you could probably do extras. And this is something that you can do if you want. And this can be more on the low lift side of things. Maybe you do a couple more story posts. Maybe you find a way to engage your audience more organically to let them know about your experience with this particular thing, just so they don't see your brand deal as just, oh, this is just a paid thing and whatever. Like, yeah, get your money, sis. Because realistically, y'all, our followers most of the time don't really understand what it is that we do and how much of a big deal them engaging with the content is as well. So it's really important for us to, as much as we can, find ways to organically talk about these things that we're promoting, because the last thing you want for your followers to think is this is just a money grab for you and this is not something you actually use or care about. I can confidently say that anything I promote, anything that I share with my audience via a paid campaign, it's something that I genuinely enjoy, and I find ways to talk about it outside of the brand deal. Of course, I will talk about it and just keep it as top of mind for people so they realize, you know what, this is actually something she uses and not just because she got a check. You feel me? Okay. But for the part of like with the brand, as I was talking about, is make sure you follow up to show like the performance of the campaign. It might not always be through comments that you're getting like that reception. Sometimes people are sending you DMs. Sometimes people shared stories. They gave like mini testimonials. Screenshot those things, y'all, and put them in your, I call it case studies. Put in your case studies, or in your performance, your ad performance, that you can then follow up to share with the brand so that they kind of know the reception to the product. And also, this is a time that you can give feedback as well, especially if people have had experience with this particular product or service that you're talking about. That could also be an opportunity for you to like raise some of the things that people were saying, if it's not always going to be on the positive side, right? Because all the feedback should really matter to the brand, in my personal opinion. All right, so those are the things I feel like are the overall do's and don'ts when it comes on to brand deals. There are other things that I could have probably talked about in this episode, but they are probably escaping me right now. If you are someone who has had opportunities with brand deals and you have any gems that you want to share, feel free to leave a comment. If you're listening to this on Spotify or if you're watching this on YouTube, use the comment section to also share this. Would love, love, love to hear your thoughts on this. And yeah, let me know what your experience has been like, and if there are any things that you have learned along the way so that other people can learn from your experience as well. So at the end of the day, remember that you're not just creating content. You are a business owner at this point. You are building a business, and so you have to move accordingly. Remember to be professional, protect your brand as much as you can, and build solid relationship. Work on ways that you are maintaining and building solid relationships with the brands that you get the opportunity to work with. The final piece of advice I will give is, while we are going into the new year, not everyone is going to have the same, I would say, advantage where you have so many inbounds, where it's brands coming to you and coming with these amazing brand opportunities. Sometimes you're going to have to swallow your pride and pitch as well. If there is a brand that you want to work with, chances are they just don't know that you're out there. Let them know that you exist. Have them see the work that you're doing. If it is a product you actually like, find ways that you can organically share about the brand, even if it's one time. You never know what those opportunities can bring for you later down the line. So that is my 2 cents on this topic. I hope that you found it insightful, that you got something from it, and that you feel confident going into the new year. I personally want to work more on pitching myself in the new year. There are so many brands that along the way I know at some point they would have been a good fit for me. And so for me, I want to be super intentional for the new year with the brands that I want to work with. And one thing I'm definitely going to be working on is sending out pitches to the brands that I actually envision myself working with who align with my audience and my values as well. Thank you so much again for listening. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, rate the podcast, people. If you don't want the podcast to do good, rate the podcast. And I will see you in another episode. Bye.